Hey everybody, welcome to our Educating and Empowering You program for June 23rd, 2022. We are excited to present this ongoing program through the Boone County Hospital Foundation. I am Sarah Clute-Bain. I am the Executive Director of the Foundation. We try to have these programs monthly. We're also uploading these in a video format for people to be able to view at a later date, but also uploading them to audio version as well, and starting to convert these all to podcasts so people can listen to them in their cars or even more conveniently in other places. So I would like to just take a moment really quick to let you all know that next month we're going to have Addison Enns. She is our new social worker at Boone County Hospital. She is going to be presenting to us on end of life just planning and that type of thing that happens here oftentimes at the hospital or in a variety of different settings where people can feel prepared for that type of thing. So always a good topic to revisit and just continually be informed on the latest information that's out there. So we hope that you join us next month. I believe it's on July 19th, if I remember correctly. But we will definitely get that information sent out to everyone via our multiple different platforms that we advertise. So without further ado, though, I would like to talk a little bit here about Miss Carrie Johnson. So Carrie is the, I looked you up on LinkedIn, so I have your official title, I think. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the territory representative.
And that is correct.
Great, at LifeServe Blood Center. So working with volunteers to plan and coordinate successful mobile blood drives to help maintain blood supply for patients in need at local hospitals. So you are going to hopefully probably tell us a little more about yourself, what you do, and then how we can, as volunteer, hopefully blood donors, we can get more donors out there to help you out.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today. I always enjoy talking with the community and, educating people on the importance of blood donations, especially with LifeServe, as we do support the community blood supply. So like you said, I am a territory rep for LifeServe. I've been here for about 4 years, and I work with a variety of people, civics groups, schools, hospitals, communities to coordinate all of the mobile blood drives in my area, which has grown quite substantially, I will say, over the years. So I now cover everything down from Des Moines, basically all the way up even further north than Highway 20. So I cover all of the Fort Dodge area, all their mobile blood drives. I scooch into East Iowa a little bit, and I'm kind of the big central quadrant, so to speak. So I really enjoy what I do and working with people to set up blood drives. Without them, what I do and what we do could not be possible. We rely very heavily on volunteers at LifeServe, and we really appreciate the work that they do. And that's kind of my role, is working with my volunteers at the blood drive to make sure they can kind of recruit and have all the tools they need to get everything set up. So that's a little about me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I've got a little bit of a presentation to kind of talk about LifeServe and what we do and kind of how you can help us help the community. So give me just a second here and I will share my screen.
So your office in Des Moines then, Carrie?
Yes, so I am based out of our Des Moines office in Locust. And then, I travel all over the place. So lots of on the road time, quite a bit of office time as well. It's split pretty well between the two, but I'm kind of all over the place, which is very nice. I get to be out and about much more than some other people within LifeServe.
Do you go to all of the mobile on-site like when you do any on-site blood donations? Do you go to all of them or most of them?
So for example, this month I have 41 blood drives. And that is collections Monday through Saturday only. So it is definitely not possible for me to get to all of them. However, during the planning process for blood drives, I will generally meet with chair people, at their place of business, sometimes at their home or a community location, and we will sit down, go over everything, and then once the day of the drive comes, I usually leave it in the hands of our DS staff members, which are the ones that actually go to the blood drives and do the blood collections. And so usually they take it over, handle it from there. I do a lot of follow up afterwards, but if I'm in the area traveling, I'll definitely stop by any blood drives that I have going on there. But some days we'll have, 3, 4, 5 blood drives happening at the same time that are just mine. And so it can be quite a bit to manage and keep up with sometimes.
That makes sense. And I apologize that I probably asked a question you're probably going to cover as you go through your presentation. So I'll let you get started on that, but I was curious about that right off the bat. So thank you for that. And
Yes.
I'll mute myself here and let you get going.
Perfect. Okay. So, like I said, with LifeServe Blood Center, and I usually start off with just some fun facts. Obviously, we won't kind of do the Q&A portion of this, but just some kind of things to get you thinking about blood donations in general. And so, when someone donates blood and they donate 1 pint of whole blood, they're actually saving up to 3 lives. So one donation can have a pretty big impact. The most common blood type that we see is going to be O positive, which is very fortunate because that is usually something that is in pretty high demand. And then also once we collect a unit of blood, we then send it to the lab, send off samples to get tested, and we will actually run 15 different tests. Some of those are multiples for, various things. It could be, bloodborne diseases, make sure that there's nothing in that blood that is going to cause any issues for the recipient on the receiving end. And then this last one, this is always one that I feel like has the biggest shock value for people. So people think about needing blood. You don't always plan for that. There is always a need, but you never think about yourself receiving blood or needing to. That's just something that most people aren't going to be worried about is, oh my goodness, when am I going to need blood? But the probability that an individual is going to require a blood transfusion in their lifetime is actually 90%. So there's a very high chance that you will need blood products at some point in your life. Now, that could be in the form of platelets, plasma, or red blood cells, and it could be for a variety of reasons. Most people think of traumas when they think of, people receiving blood, but those are a pretty small fraction of the people that we see. We've got general surgery, cancer patients, things like that that are going to also require blood products.
Can I chime in a quick question?
Yes.
So while it's fresh on my mind here, what exactly defines whole blood and why is it called whole blood?
Yes. So when you donate, we basically do one needle stick in your arm and we collect just your straight blood. That's what we call it, the whole blood. It's we're not spinning off any components. Like if anyone were to have donated plasma before or platelets, it goes through a special machine that will take off just those specific cells and then give everything back. With whole blood, you're donating all of it. So you're donating all components, your red blood cells, your platelets, and your plasma. So that would be why we call it your whole blood. And then once we separate it out, we don't, hospitals typically don't use whole blood units. They want more specifics on what their patients need. If somebody needs to get platelets, they don't necessarily need to also get plasma or whole blood. So it just kind of helps stretch the blood supply a little bit better when you kind of right type those donors who are receiving the blood products as well. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was debating on whether or not to unmute. Yes, so it did.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
not a problem. All right, so a little bit about LifeServe in general. So we are a nonprofit community-based blood center. We are based here out of Des Moines. However, we do have 14 different locations now across 3 different states. So we are actually growing. Like I said before, rely heavily on volunteers, but we also have a lot of team members as well. And we've got about 510 team members and volunteers across all of our 14 locations. We are now the 15th largest blood center in the US, which is, I always find hard to believe that that actually came out to be the case, because we just, here in Iowa, we just seem so small. It's so community based. It doesn't seem like we would be that large, but really we have a big impact. And our donors are wonderful. And they, keep everything in check and make sure we always have the blood products we need. And we do need about 200,000 community members every year in order to meet all of our hospital needs and make sure that we have enough blood on the shelves so that nobody has to go into a hospital and wonder if they're going to be able to get the blood products that they need. The last bit, with us being community based and not a national blood center, we actually have the ability to share any excess if we were to have that. It does not happen very often, but if we were to have any excess of blood supply, we do not want a single unit to go to waste. We want to be very good stewards of the blood supply. And so when we're able, we can actually share those units with other blood centers that might be in need. Especially if there's been natural disasters, large events. We did send some units down to Texas after the school shooting. So, if a center is really in need, we're able to help out, and vice versa. We can also reach out to others, community-based blood centers, to see if they have any extra units, if we happen to be really low, if something were to happen, and somebody was sitting on a, larger portion of the blood supply, we can actually share that. So very nice to know that nothing is ever wasted. If it seems like we have a lot, we will make sure that that is getting transfused into somebody that needs it. But right now, that unfortunately is not the case. So I will talk about that in a little bit, but we'll kind of move on from here. So this next graphic is just kind of a representation of all of the different hospitals that we serve. So we are pretty county based, because generally with critical access hospitals, there's usually not too many within the same county. So a lot of Iowa, obviously very rural. We do, however, have most of the larger metropolitan areas in Iowa. And as you can see, we go pretty far up into South Dakota now. But if anybody knows anything about South Dakota, it is pretty remote up there. So it looks like a large geographical area, but it is not a lot of units that we're needing to transfuse up there. We just picked up these contracts this year. They were having some issues with their previous supplier and getting blood products up during the winter because their winters are worse than ours. So we were able to actually work with the hospitals, and we're going to open up kind of its own distribution hub up there. So we'll have a donor center, a lab, and distribution, so we can basically collect the blood in that area and keep it there, so that we're not worrying about transporting, because a lot of our blood, especially collected in the central Iowa area, is coming down to Locust, because that's where our main lab is. And then, we'll get all of the products created, packaged up, tested, and then sent off to the hospitals from there. One of the fun facts that I have too is out of Des Moines, all of our drivers that are going to the hospitals and delivering those blood products are volunteers. So we rely solely on a volunteer delivery driver delivery service, basically, from our volunteers. So they'll come down to Locust, pick up one of our boxes, and head out to whatever hospital they need to get blood products to that day. If we do happen to have smaller hospitals where they might not transfuse as much, but they need to keep a couple units on their shelf just in case an emergency were to come in. And let's say it's been a while that unit's been sitting there and it's going to expire soon, our drivers will actually go up, collect that unit, swap it out with a new one, and bring it down to one of our large metro hospitals where it will get transfused probably within that day or the next day or so. One of our big heavy users. So we always are moving blood products around, always making sure everybody's got what they need. And so that way no hospital patients have to go without. So some more facts and some numbers. So these numbers are all based on last year's data. We kind of are always a year in the rear on our factual data that we send out. So we have complete numbers. But last year, it was still kind of an odd year for us, to be honest. We were still going through COVID. A lot of our blood drives were very heavily impacted during COVID. When everything shut down, so did the locations that we host all of our mobile blood drives at. It was really tough to get into, schools were shut down, so we couldn't really get into schools anymore. Hospitals were very locked down. Churches were closed. Community centers were also closed. So we really had to get creative. And thankfully, last year, we were starting to come a little bit back to normal. So some of our numbers are a little lower than even years past, but in 2021, we had 141,000 registered blood donors, which is fantastic. It is a huge number. We would like it to be a little bit higher. So like I said before, we need about 200,000 to fully maintain our blood supply and make sure that everybody has what they need. And then last year, we also had 10,000 first-time donors. So this comes from a big chunk of it are high school blood drives. So we do host blood drives at high schools in most of the communities in the areas that we serve, as long as it's a decent sized high school. Some of our smaller schools are really small schools, kind of combined with our communities. So that way the students still have an opportunity to donate, but they might not be quite big enough to support their own drive. But they are a huge factor in our first-time donors, and it's really a student's first introduction into blood donation. And so we really put a lot of focus on our high school blood drives and high school donors, as we really would like them to have the best experience possible so that they can become lifelong blood donors. And with that, we also had a little less than 2,000 blood drive coordinators. So those are the types of people that I work with on a daily basis. Those are, basically they could be teachers, they could be civics groups leaders, they could be, people within a church community, they could be completely random people that just really want to give back and host a blood drive. A lot of them are donors, previous donors or recipients, and sometimes they're not able to donate themselves. And so that's kind of their way of still giving back, is by holding their own blood drives and recruiting blood donors. We do a lot of replenishment blood drives for people, as well as memorial drives. So if someone had received, blood products and, friends, family themselves want to give back, with their, celebrate with their friends, their family, their communities. In doing so, we hold those kind of blood drives. Those are always really awesome to have, and a little more out of the norm. So there's just such a personal touch. It really brings everything full circle when you see recipients at the blood drives with donors, knowing that their blood really does make a difference. It has a really big impact, and so those are a lot of fun to host. So kind of moving on to the Your Hospital. So that was the Your Blood section. So Your Hospital, that is all of the hospitals that we service in our area. So we're up to 157 hospitals and growing across Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota. And like I said, South Dakota is a growing region. So we're expected to pick up a few more hospitals as well in the area, as we always like to be mindful of the blood supply. So we will pick up a few contracts, make sure everything is going well before we take on any more. So we try to bring them on slowly, make sure our blood supply stays stable and that we can support those additional hospitals as needed. Kind of an interesting fun fact. So every 2 seconds, someone is going to require a blood donation. It could be any type of blood product, but it is a very, very high need item. And cancer patients are actually our #1 recipient of blood products. So that could be, they could be receiving platelets. That is a huge place where our platelets goes as cancer patients. It could also just be red blood cells to get their, cell counts up enough to receive their chemo. They could just be really anemic and need that extra little boost. So they are actually the #1 user of blood products. Trauma in the summer, though, I will say goes up substantially. One of our general surgeons down here that is on our board, they like to call summer trauma season because they typically see a lot more people that are going to be needing blood products. And so our demand does go up quite a bit. However, in the summer, people are traveling, they're going out of town, they're busy, they've got things going on with their kids, with sports and things like that. So it's a lot tougher for us to get people in to donate. So usually over the summer, it's a little rough for us. And unfortunately, right now, we're kind of seeing that dip in donations versus the demand that we have. So right now, we've been sending out all kinds of messaging. If you are a current donor, please, please, please come in to donate. That's kind of my call to action initially, because it is such an in-need product, something that can't be recreated in a lab, and really does make a huge impact. 100% of the blood products needed by your community hospital come from LifeServe. So, if we're servicing that hospital, the only place they're getting their blood is through us. So we have, a huge responsibility to, the hospitals, the patients, and the community in general to make sure that they have everything that they need. And kind of some interesting fun facts for last year. So at the beginning of the year, we were doing a lot with convalescent plasma. So that was where we collected the plasma from people who had recovered from COVID and had created antibodies to COVID. We actually would have them donate their plasma, and then we were able to send that off to hospitals. And they were using that as a treatment to help people with COVID recover a little bit faster and hopefully not have as severe of symptoms or have to be put on a respirator or anything like that. We had almost 4,000 people come out and donate convalescent plasma. And the fortunate thing about that is plasma a little goes a long way in that world. So we actually were able to collect, of those 4,000 donors, we were able to collect 25,000 products that we were able to send out to hospital patients in need. So that was a really cool program to be part of. We were able to fortunately switch gears really quick from some of our normal collections and we had the right equipment and everything to get the CCP collections going, which was really fantastic, and it had a huge impact. I've heard donors even coming in now that they had either donated convalescent plasma or they were a recipient and they want to now donate, and it's just kind of a fantastic full circle thing that we had going on then. So I've covered a lot of these actually by this point, going through here. So the big takeaway is blood donations are always in need. There's always going to be a need for people in hospitals for blood products, and they can't be recreated in a lab. The only place that they can get those blood products is by another donor. And while I said that there was a 90% chance that people were going to need a blood product at some point in their life, less than 10% of the eligible US population donates annually. So there is a huge discrepancy in those numbers. And that less than 10% is even discounting all the ones that cannot donate for one reason or another. You know, they might have health conditions, they might be, you know, underweight for our requirements, might not be old enough. So that is why you've probably seen on the news a lot, especially the last couple months, that the national blood supply is dwindling, and it is dwindling quickly. Um, and it's just because we really don't have enough people that are willing to come out, give an hour of their time, and donate. Thankfully, here in our region, we have maintained pretty well. We are, like I said, we are dipping down a little lower than we would like to be. So we really have been encouraging people to come out and get a donation in. You only have to do it once every 56 days, so about once every 2 months. So it's really not a huge time commitment. If you could come out for an hour once every couple months, it would make a huge impact to the blood supply. We had run some numbers in the past and found that if every one of our current donors donated just one more time, there would never be a blood shortage. That's how much of an impact those donations make. And I always find that a very fascinating number because that does not seem like much to just do one more donation to never worry about a blood supply shortage again. So now that I have covered kind of LifeServe, lots of facts about donating, some people might be wondering, well, how do I donate? What might be involved in the process? So I'll kind of now switch gears and go over some of that information. So if you were to sign up to donate blood, there's just a couple things that we would ask of you before you would actually come in for a donation. We always want our donors to just drink plenty of fluids, eat a good meal, and get plenty of rest. So really nothing, hopefully out of the ordinary from what somebody would normally be doing. All of our donations are scheduled online. So donors can call our 1-800 number to make an appointment, or they can go online and find, you know, a blood donation center in their area. They could find a mobile blood drive in their area and get signed up for a time that works for them. And with everything being online, you can also, you know, sign up to receive text message reminders so you don't miss your appointment, or email reminders as well. So we really try to make it as easy as possible for people to come in and donate. So once you've signed up for a donation, there's just going to be 4 basic steps in the blood donation process. So every donation is going to start with a registration, and that's just where we're going to gather all of your basic demographic information. If you are under 18, that's where we would get a parental consent form that was signed already, brought into us, and we'll get that entered in the system. After that, we will do a health screening, which is basically like a little mini physical. So we'll take blood pressure, temperature, we'll check your hemoglobin levels, get your heart rate, and we'll also check over the questionnaire that we have. So our questionnaire is done kind of in between registration and history screening. However, if you are someone who needs to cut down your donation time a little bit and save some time, you can actually fill out your questions before you are coming in to donate. So it does have to be done the day of your donation, but we call it Quick Pass. And once you've filled it out on your phone, then we'll just scan a barcode once you get to the drive and you get to bypass that. So if you do it in advance, it actually takes off about 20 minutes off your donation. So huge time saver. So if time is what is stopping you from donating, just remember to do your questions ahead of time and you can save about 20 minutes from your donation. Another nice thing that we've kind of implemented and now have is for the hemoglobin portion of the screening, we historically did a finger poke and would take a blood sample and check that. However, we now have a small device that will essentially digitally read your hemoglobin level. So there is no finger pokes anymore. It's a really cool little device that we've implemented. It has gotten great reviews as I personally thought the finger poke was the worst part of the donation. For some reason, it always hurt. Your fingers are just so sensitive. But now that we have, it's called OraSense. Now that we have OraSense, we're able to take one less poke out of the donation process, which is always much appreciated from what we hear from donors. So once we get through that part, assuming everything has checked out, you're eligible to give, we've checked all of your vitals, then we'll get you in for the donation. And that is actually the quickest part of the entire process. So the donation itself is only going to take about 5 to 10 minutes. And that's going to be largely based on how hydrated you are. So if you want to get in and out, drink lots of water before you come in to donate, and then we can get you in and out. The donation portion is very easy. It's just a slight pinch. It's nothing super painful. We cover the site so donors don't see it. We try to make people as comfortable as possible to make sure that they come back and are repeat donors. Once that donation is complete, then it's everybody's favorite part. We get to bring you in for the snack time. So we feed you lots of cookies, chips, popcorn. We have granola bars, and then we also have, apple juice, water, and things like that. So we'll feed you after the donation, make sure that you are feeling well and, everything is good to go before we send you back on your way. So I'll kind of switch gears again. So once you've donated a unit of blood, it is going to come back to us. It's going to go through our lab. We're going to do testing, get that unit packaged up and ready for a hospital. While we're packaging those units up now, before we send them to the hospital, we are also now putting a little green tag on each of those units, and it is called our Thank the Donor program. So once that unit goes to a hospital, a patient is in need, that unit is going to go to their room, and it literally in that left picture there is going to have that little green heart hanging off of it. And on the back of that heart is going to be a QR code. And what that's going to do is they're going to be able to scan the QR code on that little heart, and the recipient of that blood unit, or it could be a family member in the room, it could be a member of the nursing staff. You can actually send a thank you message to the donor of that specific unit. We do obviously keep all of the health information and names of donors anonymous in between that exchange. We have all of the information on the back end, but that provides really that direct link between donor and recipient, which I think is very impactful if you receive one of these messages. They could be from, cancer treatment patients. They could be from, somebody that just had an emergency surgery or had a regular surgery that, for one reason or another, they needed a unit of blood. We had one that was a girl that was in a motorcycle accident and she needed 3 units of blood. And this was actually her thank you message to the donor of that unit. So we really like to, bring everything full circle and really let people know that what they're doing really does make a difference. It is vital to the community that we have a strong blood supply, but it also means literally the world to people who are on the receiving ends of those units, that they're not sitting there, if they've had an accident, they're not worried about, getting blood products that they need to save their lives. They know that it is going to be there. And that is the last thing on their mind. They can just focus on, getting through what they have going on at the time, and hopefully going down a good road to recovery. So here are some other thank the donors. So we've got everyone from, people with rare blood disorders that have to get monthly transfusions, people that their immune systems aren't working well, or, they're just running anemic. Sometimes it's even before, doctors know why, but they know that they need to get that unit of blood. Childbirth is a big one. And a lot of times, moms will receive, a unit of blood, depending on if there's any complications during delivery. So they're another big user. But all of these people require blood donations. They require, those blood products to be on the shelves, and we never want somebody to go without. So that's why we always urge people. Sometimes it might seem like we're a little pushy, or we call too much, or we send too many emails. But when it's literally our responsibility to make sure that these patients can live happy, full lives, I think it's worth a few extra phone calls to people, because what we do is so vital, and we couldn't do it without our donors. They're more important than they will know. Everybody's reason for donating might be different, but as long as they're donating, that's what we're after. It could be they just love the snacks. It could be they want to get out of the house for a little while and, do something good. They, might not be able to financially give or donate. And this is, their way that they can still contribute, and give back without having to give anything monetarily. Somebody could know that, their grandparents receive blood products, or their parents, or a friend, or somebody close to them has received it, and they feel compelled to help restock that supply. We have that quite a bit as well. So that's why our tagline, we did change it here a couple years ago, but it is now your blood, your hospital, your neighbors, your impact. Because really we could not do it without you, our generous blood donors, and then also without our entire team of people that helps collect blood products as well. So here's a great way to give back in your community. We actually have an upcoming blood drive in Boone. We hold these drives typically every other month. Occasionally, we will put an extra blood drive on the calendar, though, depending on needs, and if we really need to have an extra blood drive. Thankfully, Central Christian Church is always very willing to help us out and let us come use their facilities. But our next blood drive will be Monday, July 11th, at Central Christian Church, which is very close to downtown Boone, and it'll be from 1 to 6. So we've got a wide variety of times available at our blood drives. We're there every other month, if not more. So we would love to have, anybody who's interested, just come out, donate once, see how easy it is. You might be a little nervous the first time, but once you've completed your first donation, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel silly. This was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. That is generally the response I get. And you can never be too old to be a first-time donor. I always throw that out there as well, because we love to have, anybody and everybody come out and donate. You do have to be at least 16 to donate, and you have to be at least 120 pounds. Otherwise, there are, a variety of, medications and things like that that might defer someone, but we can always, walk through that. That's why we have you fill out that questionnaire beforehand to make sure that you are an eligible donor. If you want to check on that before you would actually come in to donate, you can just call our 1-800 number and get connected with one of our nurses, and they can let you know if you'd be eligible to donate or not. But I hope to see lots of people there. I've got a great chairperson. Shout out to Carol. She does a lot of advertising within the community to help promote the blood drives, and they are fantastic. So definitely stop by. She's usually there. Get some snacks with her at the canteen table, and hope to see you on July 11th at the Boone County Blood Drive. So with that, that is a lot of information, but hopefully good, impactful information, and you feel riveted to go out and donate. That's what we're always after. Or if you're not eligible, maybe think of somebody that you could refer to donating. Let them know, hey, I saw this presentation, I heard this podcast that, we would really like to, make an impact, but not able to. So just spread the word. Let people know that it is important and what you do does matter. And we'd love to see you at one of our donor centers or mobile blood drives. thank you.
So awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. You did such a great job of covering so many different aspects that I learned a ton today. I do have just a couple of questions that maybe you can help me with. And first of all, I want to also reiterate a shout out to Carol Keithley, who is our auxiliary volunteer here at the hospital, who heads up the blood drives. And I think she has for several years at least now. So I know that she's very passionate about it, and she also provides a report to the foundation board each time we have a board meeting about the blood drives and what's happening with that. So that is definitely well deserved in terms of gratitude to her. So, oh my gosh, I wrote down so many different things, and I feel like you, and maybe I missed part of this, but I guess what I was picking up on was you were kind of giving the message in a few different ways that of the shortage. You know, that we had the pandemic, we have the shortage there. We recently had a couple of tragedies that probably required a lot of blood being sent to those areas of the country. So there is definitely a huge shortage going on right now. And I know you also alluded to like what people can do to help, but is there a way for us somehow here at Boone County Hospital to help you get even more of the word out as we market, this program today and just in general the blood drive that happens every other month? Is there anything like creative or maybe that places are doing that you have thought was fun?
So, really, our best way for marketing blood donations is actually surprisingly the personal ask um, from others. So, obviously, we've got a fantastic marketing team here. We do a ton of promotions. We try to get news stories picked up on different groups, posting on their social pages and things like that. But it's really when someone walks up to somebody or somebody they know and says either, "Hey, I'm going to go to this blood drive. Would you like to join me?" And come and or hey, I would really like to donate. I'm not able to. Have you ever donated before? It's really just the personal ask that is the most effective from what I've seen. So it's just kind of encouraging, employees to, if they donate themselves, to bring a friend, bring someone to the blood drive with them so that it also kind of takes out some of those nerves, because we get that's probably the number one reason people don't donate is they're nervous. Nobody likes needles. It can be a little daunting. And so if they've got kind of that support system, that's really the best thing that we've found to market is really the personal ask, which is why our mobile blood drives are so important, because that's kind of where, if your coworker is asking at your business, then, you're more likely to actually donate. Or, if somebody at your church comes up and talks to you on Sunday morning and they, ask you if you donate, you're probably more likely to actually donate. So it's really just encouraging people to communicate that on a more personal level that is very effective for us.
Okay, I love it. Well, and I think that would be great for exactly what I was, asking with that intention was, what can we say? What would our slogan or our tagline be when we go to put this out on social media? So, bringing a friend can help us double what, our donations or whatever it is. Is there a capacity that you can hold at when you host, for example, in Boone? And do people need to kind of pre-register or can they just show up? How does that work?
Yep. So we do have a capacity. And thankfully, Boone lately has been hitting that. So I've been looking at possibly increasing some blood drives to see kind of where, kind of not where it ends, because we always want more, but kind of how many donors can we handle at the blood drive, which is a great thing to need to do. But we do require appointments just so we can keep and maintain a nice flow throughout the drive, so we don't have a bunch of people waiting if they all show up at once. So the times are slotted out about every 5 minutes or so. throughout the blood drive. Bigger drives, especially like Boone, sometimes we can see two at each of those time slots just because we'll have a lot more staff there. But yes, everything is done either by calling in or going onto our website, which is lifeservebloodcenter.org. Pretty simple there, but they can just go on there, find a drive in their area. And it might be that they, somebody that works in Boone, but actually lives over in Ames, or they live over in Ogden. And we have community drives. We have a donor center in Ames, but like I have community blood drives in Ogden as well. It just, we're kind of all over the place. Polk City, we've got blood drives, trying to think of some other, Nevada, we've got blood drives clear over there. If anybody's from Nevada area, we're all over the place. So even if it's not necessarily where you're working, or maybe it's vice versa, where, we have doesn't work when you're at work, but when you're home, you want to donate. So feel free to, always find one of those blood drives as well.
Yeah, because you said you operate on Saturdays also.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Maybe
we
some
do.
of the larger hubs, perhaps, maybe, or is
Yes.
it all over?
Yep. Our Ames Donor Center, they're open every Saturday. And then we will have mobile blood drives on Saturday as well. However, for the whole region, we can only put out usually about 2 of those on a Saturday just due to some staffing constraints. But so a lot of times those are going to be our replenishment drives or things like that, where they're a little bit more one-off. It works for Saturday for everybody to be off of work and, able to participate at those drives. So that's usually where they'll kind of fall into.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and I loved your Thank the Donor program. I think that's so awesome. And I mean, just so touching that one young lady, sent in her picture of her herself in the hospital. I'm just so grateful she was. And yeah, it's kind of shocking. Like you said, all of it, when you really sit down and think about the need and somebody every 2 seconds needing blood, and that the chance of us needing a blood transfusion during our life is 90%. It is really impactful. And I just can't thank you enough for, bringing your knowledge and your wisdom here and your expertise as far as just getting this word out. And we want to help you do that. So we will continue to work side by side with you on that mission. And again, just appreciate you being here and sharing all of this information with us today, Carrie.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's always nice to get to talk to the public and help get our word out there.
Definitely. Well, do you have anything else you wanted to add? I think you did just such an awesome job of covering everything. So anything else?
I don't think so. Yeah, get out there, donate. If you've got questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We've really tried to open it up to every way under the sun. We've got a chat feature on our website. We've got our Facebook page. We can call us, go to our website. There's all kinds of ways to get in contact with us if you have any questions about donating.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, Carrie. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch up with you hopefully soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.